Was it pretty? Absolutely not. But Nebraska is 5-1, and they continue to find ways to win, and that's what's important.
From LA to Piscataway, all Big Ten all year long. This is Big Ten 10.
There's something to be said about a football team when maybe you don't come out right away and you're not playing your best, yet you power through and you find ways to win. That's the mark of an improving football team. That's the mark of a team with a really good football culture. And I think that's what's happening at Nebraska. Right, over the last 3 games, I think their maybe best played game, maybe not on defense, maybe we're talking more about offense at this point, but it might be that game against Illinois. Like, they didn't score until late in the third quarter against a bad Purdue team. Now, they got it together in the fourth quarter, and they had a barrage of points, winning 28-10, of course, and then only 14 scored. Now, this was a good Rutgers team. I think we need to say that right now, so we need to give a little bit of credit to the Scarlet Knights, but when you're not playing your best on offense and you find other ways to win, that's the mark of an improving culture right now at Nebraska. They've won 5 out of their first 6 games. That's success. When we say what is success with some of these football teams, that's success. Winning close games has been a struggle for this Nebraska program. This is maybe a game against another well-coached team with Greg Schiano and Rutgers where Nebraska maybe finds a way to lose. Didn't happen. That's a credit to Matt Rule. That's a credit to what is happening right now with this Nebraska football program. Let's get into my takeaways. And boy, when you talk about finding other ways to win, it is leaning on the Blackshirts. It is leaning on that defense, and that defense saved Nebraska. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say Rutgers is an offensive juggernaut, but they have improved from where they were last season, and I think Nebraska, they just brought it defensively. This was maybe their best defensive showing of the season so far. I know they halted a good Colorado offense to 10 points early in the season, but this is another fantastic showing, and I think this was maybe a better showing because of maybe what was happening on offense, where maybe certainly it wasn't their best day. They weren't moving the football as effectively, so there was more pressure being put on Tony White's defense. And when you talk about pressure, you got to talk about James Williams. I know a lot of people, when you talk about Nebraska's defensive line, you throw the big boys up front, Nash, Hutmaker, and Ty Robinson. Now, they certainly had a good game in this game for Nebraska, but James Williams, 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss. And when I looked up the numbers after that game, and I'm like, it seemed like he had more than that. It seemed like he was just absolutely putting up real estate in the backfield. And once again, that's the mark of an improving and developing football program where you have a lot of depth and you have a lot of guys that can get after it on defense. They halted Kyle Monangai in the second half of this football game, and we'll talk more about Kyle Monangai in this game, but I thought Kyle ran the ball pretty well early in this game, but when they went, and we're going to talk more about Rutgers and their offensive choices here in just a minute, but in the second half when Rutgers wanted to try to establish a run, they wanted to get back to the run game, Nebraska was there to stuff it all in throughout the second half. Nebraska's defense bailed out the special teams on that block punt. They bailed out the offense, I think, a lot during this game. How about that goal line stand on 4th and goal, coming up and standing tall at that moment in time? At the biggest times and at the biggest moments in this football game, Nebraska's defense came ready to play. Now, if their offense just can continue to get better, this is a team that if they can lean on that great defense and their offense continues to improve, I know right now maybe Nebraska fans out there aren't exactly crazy with where this offense is right now, but if this defense continues to play like this, I think they're going to be in, maybe outside of Ohio State, they're going to be in every single game they play for the remainder of the season. And when you're standing with only 1 loss, that sounds pretty good when you talk about an end-of-season record when all is said and done. All right, let's get to this Rutgers team. Let's get to Kyle Monangai. Okay, he had something like 9 carries, 60 or 61 yards early in this game. I thought they were doing a pretty good job running the football early on in this game, and then they kind of got away from it. which kind of played in exactly to what Nebraska wanted, what Nebraska's defense wanted to happen. And I said it in my preview. Try to get the ball into the hands of Ethan Kaliakmanis because, once again, I said it earlier in the week, and it turned out to be true. When you put the ball into Ethan's hands and you make him be the guy, he's not going to be the guy. We saw what we've seen, what Minnesota fans have maybe seen the last couple of years, is that when he becomes the playmaker, sometimes it's the defense that makes plays. You saw 2 interceptions from this Nebraska defense. Now, I want to give Ethan a little bit of credit, right? He hung in there, man. He got them into the end zone, some big plays over the top, and he had some guts to make this a one-possession game in the end. But Nebraska, it really played into what Nebraska wanted to do from a defensive game plan. And now I understand they got behind. They wanted to try to throw the ball to get back into this one. And once again, we have to credit Nebraska, and we have to credit Tony White for being in that situation. But I was a little bit, there was times, and I know like in the fourth quarter, you got to try to throw to get back into this one, but there was times in the third quarter, maybe even later in the second quarter, where I'm like, they're really getting away from the run game in this point. They're really getting away from the run game, and we'll get maybe into the run game here in just a minute as it pertains to both of these teams. Rutgers had some miscues in this game. Okay, you go back to some of these other games. I know they were undefeated prior to this game, but there were some little things throughout the season so far that maybe couldn't have hinted at something like this. You look at a missed field goal. You look at a fake that was stymied and stifled as well, which once again plays into the discipline of this Nebraska football team right now. But, just points left on the field for the Rutgers Scarlet Knights in this one. Now, I want to finish this up by just talking about both teams and their success for the rest of the season. Now, I love Dylan Raiola. I think he's going to be a really good quarterback when all is said and done at Nebraska. But this Husker team started this game off in a really positive way. Why? Because they were running the football. When Rutgers is running the football, good things happen. Both of these teams are going to have a lot of success this season if they pound the rock. They combined for 175 yards as a team on the ground. I certainly thought those numbers would be higher. When I look at Nebraska, I love the rotation that they have. There's a trio of guys that can beat you. The speed of Ramir Johnson. You look at the power of Dante Dowdle. You look at Emmett Johnson, who's got some power. He's certainly got some speed in there as well. That seems to me is the path to success for Nebraska, is if they can run really well in the early downs, you set up manageable and you set up easier passing situations down the field for Dylan Raiola. Like, you look at the stat lines for both of these quarterbacks in this game, and I think it proves when both of these teams are throwing more than they are running, I'm not sure if they're going to reach their ceiling. I'm not sure if they're going to both have the success that they really want to have. So that's one thing that I really noticed. That's one thing that I certainly took away from this game, for both of these teams. But when it comes down in the end, it comes down to finding a way to win. Rutgers was able to do it last week against Washington. Nebraska was able to do it this week against the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. And that is a sign of a developing and improving football culture in Lincoln, Nebraska. I want to hear your thoughts on all things Nebraska, on all things Rutgers. Leave them in the comments below. I'm Big Ten Ted. We'll see you in the next one.
Thanks for watching Big Ten Ted, where it's all Big Ten all year long. Make sure to like the video to spread the word of Big Ten Ted to the masses, and subscribe to the channel for updates on Big Ten content that drops every day.